My full name is just Erma Bullock. My birthday is January the 31st. I was born in Paris, Arkansas. My grandparents was Annie Luman, and my grandfather Luman passed away before I was ever born. And my grandma Mosley, Matilda Mosley, and she lived to be 80-something years old, but my grandpa Mosley passed away before I was ever born. My dad was Dewey Mosley. My daddy, he wasn't, he was a hard worker, but he gambled, and he was not really a good father. But he did go out with other women, and he wasn't good to my mom, and he wasn't a good father to us kids. He never really beat us, but he was mean. He cussed us, and he was not a good dad. Mom and Daddy used to fight. My mom and I used to get scared. My mom was Ethel Mosley. I had a wonderful mother. You couldn't beat my mother. She was wonderful. Oh, she was really a kind-hearted lady, and she would give off in her back for us kids, and she would do everything she could for her kids. We'd have our babies, she would always come and take care of us, and she loved our kids, and she would help us in every way. She didn't have money, but she would help us every way she could. She was a good cook, and you'd go to her house, and she would really, she didn't have a lot of money, but she'd always fix a real good dinner. She'd fix breakfast. We loved her biscuits and gravy, and she wouldn't finish with breakfast till she'd say, "What are we gonna have for dinner today?" And that's the truth. She would. You ask the kids. There were 6 of us kids, and we had a pretty good time when we were growing up at playing together at home and stuff. We didn't get to have friends like other kids did because we couldn't invite them to our house or anything like that. We just played with each other. Well, we had a hard time of going to school because about time we'd get started in a school and we'd get acquainted with some kids. We moved around a lot. And then we moved, when we came to California, when we was, I was about 7, I guess. We first moved to Ventura, California, and then we moved all over California. And we lived in a tent at Pumpkin Center. I always felt like I wasn't as good as they was, and I just felt bad and embarrassed. I didn't have a good friend because we didn't have a good home life, and we couldn't invite them to our house. We didn't go on vacations or do anything like that. We didn't have bicycles and skates and get to go to the movies and go to the drive-ins and have stuff, like you guys can go buy something new when you want it, and you can get in your car and go do what you want to do. We never got to do stuff like that when we were growing up. We just really didn't have a life. When we lived in that tent, my daddy and my twin brother, that tent was flopping in the back, and And they didn't, I mean, Daddy, he was kind of mean. And they had got into it, and we weren't very old. And my twin brother, we were real close. And he come in there and he was crying, and he said, Erma, where's my old blue shirt? I'm leaving, he said. And he was crying, and I felt so sorry for him. And I said, if you're leaving, I'm going with you. And we didn't even ask my brother and sister-in-law. And we went home with them to Santa Paula, and we lived with them for a while. My first job was picking cotton. You had a cotton sack and it went around your shoulder, and you'd pick that cotton and put it in that sack, and then you'd go weigh it, and you'd get paid so much a pound. And how many pounds of cotton you picked, that's how much money you'd make. We'd go early in the morning and stay till late in the evening. Daddy would get my paycheck. I think it's $3 for 100 pounds. It was kind of bad. We didn't have very many clothes. And Mama and me and Earl and Daddy all was working, and he'd just take all of our money. He'd go down there and gamble that night when he'd get our pay. But, I mean, we didn't even get $5 to spend, and we never got to go to town and buy nothing after we'd work all week long, or we wouldn't get $5 spending money out of our check or nothing. I met Foy on the Laminaire Ranch, and we lived there on the ranch, and we lived in a 600 camp, and we moved right across the walkway from him. And I met him, and my friend that I had known before when I lived with my brother, she had a little party, and Foy asked her. He didn't know I knew her, and he said, are you gonna invite my girlfriend? And she said, who is she? He said, I don't know who she is, but she moved in across the street from me. And she already knew me from before when I lived with my brother. And he went and I went to that party, and we met that night. And then the next day was Sunday, and we went to church with her and her boyfriend, and we started going together that Sunday, and we started going together then. And then we kept going together, and then we got married. Foy was about the only man I ever went with. I thought he would be a good husband, and he was a good guy, and I just felt like he would be a good husband, and I liked him a lot. I guess I loved him. My parents liked him. They thought he was a good man. I remember we went somewhere, and he said, I have something in my pocket, will you accept it? And then he got it out, his little rings out, and he put it on my finger, and then he asked me to marry him. I just wanted to make sure, or thought I was, that I was going to get a good man that would be good to me, and we'd get along and live happily ever after. We used to go to a lot of places, and he would do things around the house, and he knew how to fix a lot of things, and I just miss him. It was sad when he passed away, and I really missed him, and even now it gets lonely just being by yourself and thinking if he was here we could do a lot of stuff now. He passed away from cancer, lung cancer, and it was bad because he was real sick. He passed away at home, and we took care of him at home. He never was in the hospital. And it was sad. My husband was in the service station at Camp Pendleton, and he just happened to come home when Darlene was born, and we went to Port Hueneme to the Navy base, and Darlene was born at Port Hueneme at the Navy base, and she was my first baby. Darlene was a good little girl. She was a sweet little baby girl, and my mom babysit her for a little while, but not always. But there was some little old ladies that babysit little babies back then, and she always had an elderly lady that took care of her, and they were like a grandma to her, and I always worked. Darlene is always really thoughtful, and she's really good to me, and she just always buying me stuff, and she's really concerned about me and tries to help me and take care of me. And she lives far off, but she is concerned and wants me to have the best, and she tries to tell me and take care of me. Kathy Diane, and she was the second one. She was born at Santa Paula Hospital. Kathy, she was the one that was, I guess you'd say, the hardest one to handle. And she had kind of a mind of her own, and we had more. She was the one that didn't mind the best. I remember one time she slammed that door before he made her walk around that circle in the house and shut them doors easy. I forgot how many times. She would come over more because she didn't work. And me and her used to go just messing around at the stores and stuff like that. And we'd go to the cemetery real regularly and decorate the graves and clean them. And now then I can't go out there no more. But now Kathy's gone. She's not here no more. When Kathy passed away, it was very sad. She was my first one that passed away. And she left 3 children, and it was very sad when she passed away. I finally got a boy, Terry Foy, and he was our first boy. He was born in Santa Paula also. Really? And they say I pet Terry more, but I didn't. He was always a good boy, really. He never got in trouble. He never got in no trouble. And he was the only boy in our family. Terry, he takes me to the grocery store and he tells me all the time, Mom, if you need something, just call me and let me know. I don't know if you don't let me know. And he'll call me and ask me if I need to go to the store or if I need anything. And Darlene's nice to me too. Linda, my baby girl, she was also born in Santa Paula. But Linda was always good, and she would do a lot for me too. And Linda, when she lived in Bakersfield, me and her used to do a lot, and I'd go to her house a lot and eat and everything, and she'd go places with me. now. It's really important to me, like come down here and visit and see you guys and being with you guys. That's really important to me now. What makes me happy is just being with my family and getting to see them. That's all that makes me happy anymore. And I try to live my life and do what's right and trust the good Lord, and He takes real good care of me. I'll be 88 years old in January. I still live by myself and take care of myself, and I really thank God that I can do that at 88 years old. I always worked with my kids, but I loved them, but I just knew that we could have more if I worked. But I always had them when I wasn't working. We wasn't out running around drinking and stuff. We stayed home and took our kids wherever we went. I always wanted my kids to do better than I did, and so far they all have. And I can be proud of my kids because none of them has ever been in jail or been to prison, and so many kids have, and I thank the good Lord that my kids has been good, and they've all worked hard, and they've been good parents, and I'm proud of my kids.